Welcome back. Today, our guest coming back to join us after a couple of months is Cheree. And when we met her before, she was having a lot of pain with ankles and elbows. And one of the causes was that she has a form of rheumatoid arthritis. So it was a little different perspective than what we normally share with just plain old injuries or recovery from surgeries. So I'll ask you kind of how you're doing now, but I do want to share, because of the rheumatoid arthritis, what we find is sometimes we have to slow down and take a little different tact, which you're going to see today, because after last session, if you look at the shorts, she was feeling great, but what happened?
That night I was so sore I could hardly walk, and then the next day I was like, wow, I didn't feel like we moved that much, but I was still very sore for a couple days.
With the autoimmune, the body reacts pretty strongly even just to the most subtle change. So we're going to back it up and just be really super gentle today, and just less is more. But she also, a couple days after our session, had foot surgery.
Right.
So one of the things we want to do today, it's a couple months later, we want to just make sure that her balance reactions are really nice, and maybe just match up how her feet are working together in just the tiniest way. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm Kara Lindell. I'm the founder of the Bridging Institute and the Bridging Technique. And we take a little different take on solving your pain and coordination issues with a problem-solving approach that's engineering-based, because my background is systems engineering and a movement specialist. So let's see what we've got. So let's just see standing up. How's balance? So I'm just going to take you from side to side. And what I'm feeling for is what's reacting on the left foot, because that was the surgery. And it moves, but it just feels like it's a little bit slow. Like the right one actually moves a little easier. It's kind of like if one thing had been in the fridge and one thing was out on the counter. It's like they're both kind of moving, but one just feels a little more sluggish. So
right.
That's a good, I mean, they're actually doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So overall, is any particular thing bothering you still? Because before you actually were pretty specific with elbows and ankles.
My elbow is still the right elbow is still a little sore, not as bad probably as it was. And then my ankle, of course, is still healing, and I'm trying to, get that back.
Yeah.
Also, my neck is always an issue too. So
Okay.
kind of the main things right now, I guess.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is just kind of work through some really gentle core movement, just to help her core be able to be more adaptable, to help her just globally with general movement and efficiency, so that you don't get tired as easily. Okay. And so that we're going to work through that, and then we're going to recheck and see how her feet are, and maybe just match them up just a little bit, because we want her to move better and not feel worse for a couple of days.
Yes.
So, all right. So I want you on your side.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is just see how the upper and lower halves of her core works. I'm going to hold it in the middle and go forward and back. So a little bit, I'd like a little easier. And shoulder. So it moves, but there's a fluency that could be better. Okay. If you were in the office, what I would do is actually check both sides to see which one is better, where we're going to start. But this seems like a good starting point, because there is movement. So I'm going to use just, again, this deflated peanut. It conforms really nicely, provides very global support. And I'm just going to use a really slight motion, and it's really light pressure. I know you can feel that it's there, but it probably doesn't feel like I'm doing much. And just keeping her hips stable, because what I want is the upper half of her core to be able to move more easily, connecting up with her hip. And once I feel that it changes a little bit, then we're going to switch and connect the hip up to the shoulder, and then we're going to switch sides. When I teach, one of the things we impress upon everybody is less is more. Sometimes you just need the smallest little change for people to feel better. And this is really a great example of less really being the right thing. When people have autoimmune conditions, your system is, it's working pretty hard. So we don't need to make it work even harder. There we go. Okay. So her whole side just linked up and is moving a little bit more easily as a whole. And let me check. Feel how much smoother that is?
Mm-hmm.
And then here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, except the opposite. I'm going to hold her shoulder and just use a little movement on the lower half of her core. And then we're going to switch sides. And you may wonder, how in the world does just this little bit help? But by getting her core so it works more efficiently, just makes moving around less stressful and not take as much energy. Okay, so that is all moving really easily. And the funny thing is, just because you're on your side and your legs are stable because of how they're laying, your hip actually has to move. Mm. So we're kind of getting at your hip in a very indirect way. And your elbows, see what it's doing?
Oh, yeah.
It's moving. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's switch sides. So I'm going to be sit up.
Okay.
And come over this way.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the same things. So first I'm going to check from the middle and see what's moving. Well, the interesting thing is her shoulder on this side, and this is the elbow that bothers you more. The shoulder is a lot stiffer, and hip is about the same as the other side. So I'm going to start by keeping the shoulder stable. I'm going to go in reverse order because I like to work from what moves and let that teach the parts of the body that are not moving yet. So I'm just holding shoulder just gently stable and moving from the lower half of her core. And again, the same thing. She's going to be getting little movement at the hip and at the elbow just because of how they're stabilized. There we go. And what we're going to do when we're finished is make sure each side matches the other side. And we're going to hold here and a little movement at the shoulder. And it linked up with the hip and just moving very fluently. So on a day-to-day basis, you may not notice anything specifically, but what you should notice is that you can do more without being as tired.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. And just every little thing shouldn't cause you as much of an ache. Okay. Her shoulder's still kind of tight on the front side. So what I want to do is just provide some support under the shoulder and just add a little bit of movement and see if we can get the whole shoulder to relax there. Boy, it was like it just melted away. And one little turn and her elbow. Match that up. Okay, again, I don't want to do a lot. So roll back on your back. Okay. And let's just see if we have sides matched up. And then we're going to match up the feet. Okay. So I'm going to grab an arm and a leg, roll you toward me. Okay, that works. It's just a little bit, but for where you're at, a little bit is fine as long as they both match. Oh, but this side is better. Oh. Yeah, so we're going to just rock this side a couple of times and see if it can meet up with the other side. What we're doing is just helping different groups of muscles figure out how to find each other and start working together again. There we go. Okay. And that's the foot. But here's what we're going to do. Just to match these guys up. Bend your knees and put your feet up here. If you've seen some of our other videos in the past where we've worked with feet, you'll know I did this sitting up. This is an option, laying down. I'm just holding her feet. They're resting on the moving peanut ball. And I'm just going to go forward and back and hold at different points with her ankle. And the surgery was up at the front of her foot. The ankle actually seems pretty good, and they both seem to be tracking pretty nicely with each other. And I'm going to hold just gently at the toes, and my thumb is on the pad of her foot below. And that one doesn't move quite as easily on the left. And I'm just going to guide it through a couple of times. And then that's it. They seem pretty equal to each other. And then your toes just relaxed. Feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that's the last little piece you need to help with your recovery.
Yeah.
So come on up. And let's make sure that you're moving still pretty nicely. So side to side and turning. Your core movement is actually really nice. Yeah,
Good.
it's so movement versus strength, two different things. But for moving around and for balance, we actually want all this nice core control. You've got forward and back, side to side, and turning. And they're very centered and very easy. So stand up and let's see how that interacts with your feet.
Okay.
So I'm going to hold here and we're going to go side to side. And I don't feel that sluggishness on your left side. Do you feel it? It's just easier?
Yeah.
Yeah. And wow, you're almost like springing back. And then forward and back. Great. Okay, Cheree, you can sit for a sec. So just to recap, what we did with Cheree was to take things another step further to help her overall work a little bit more efficiently and more fluently. The issue from the knee was what we worked on last time because her hip and the leg just really didn't interact well. And just to make sure her elbows were connecting. So this time we worked more from the core perspective. And then very last we matched up how the feet are able to go flex and extend together to make sure that right and left match up. And so hopefully you won't have the boomerang where you kind of take a step back and then come back. We just want forward progress. So if you like this episode, give us a thumbs up. Great job from Cheree. And hit subscribe for the channel so you can get more episodes like this. We always find some really interesting guests. If you'd like to be a guest, the information's on the show notes. We'd love to have you. And if you're a professional and you want to learn the bridging technique, we do offer workshops, and that information is on the website. So thank you for coming in.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hopefully you're feeling better.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you.